This is Farm Next, and I am your host, Sarah Beth Aubrey, the author of Who's Running Your Farm Next? 5 Steps to Develop and Coach Your Next Generation, and the founder of Elevate Ag, the peer innovation network. This is the podcast where we talk about in agriculture what we don't often want to talk about in agriculture, the people side of the business, the challenges, the joys, and the rewards of working with family and those around us in our communities in agriculture. But we're here to talk about how to make your future successful and how to have the creative conversations that get the job done to get us to the next generation. So now let's start the conversation. Welcome back to the Farm Next podcast. I'm Sarah Beth Aubrey, and I'm glad that you're here. And I'm glad to be here too. This is episode number 5 of the brand new podcast that I launched back in October of 2019. So kind of exciting to see the number of listens, and there were 3 international listens already on this, which kind of blew my mind, how people find you in the world of these online and internet-based options. I have no idea, but I am excited about it. So thank you for listening so far. Welcome to episode number 5. And today we're going to continue with the series that I started a week ago, 2 weeks ago. And it is a series on the 6 fundamental shifts in agriculture that I believe are affecting all of us in the industry, all the way up and down the chain. So from the farm level, and this is at any size of farm, and this is all the way up to the senior executives in the agribusiness companies and suppliers that provide inputs, resources, financing, and other things to the ag industry. So fundamental shifts are things that they're just that. They're at the base level. They're the new foundation that things are built on. They cause change, and people must go along with that change or be left behind or be unprofitable or be risking extinction. And that's why when I put my book together this year, and I launched it in August, it's called it's called Who's Running Your Farm Next? 5 Steps to Develop and Coach Your Next Generation. I was struggling initially with where to start the book, to be honest, because I knew what I wanted to share with the tips and the ideas and the stories and kind of give you this positioning book around what are some of the steps I think you can take that I've seen work to develop and coach a new generation while the current generation is there, a collaborative approach. But I didn't know where to start. I mean, I wasn't ready to just launch into this. I wanted to kind of make this a positioning book, a foundation for me as to what am I doing now as a consultant in this industry for the last 20 years to all of you. And also as a lifelong farmer and someone who grew up on a farm. And I'm sitting here in Monrovia, Indiana right now recording this, looking out over our pasture covered in snow, actually really early snow. So I wanted to figure out, where do I start the book? So for me, as I reflected on that and kind of got into where I wanted to go, it became clear that a call to action kind of approach would be a good one to start. And that's where this series is why I'm starting my podcast. So this is only episode 5, but this is also why I felt like the podcast, to launch it, the fundamental shifts were an effective place to start as well. Because if you're just listening to this, it gives you an idea of why on earth are we doing this? Why do these topics really matter? And most importantly, why do they matter to me now? And I believe that they do. So that's the purpose. I've taken a look at 6 fundamental shifts that we're all dealing with. We're going to cover number 3 today in the series. So obviously the series will be 6. So if you want to follow along, we're covering shift number 3 today, which is really going to be more of a colloquial approach to discussing the global marketplace that everyone in agriculture takes a part in, even if we don't think about that every day. So we're going to definitely get into that in just a moment. But I'm just, thinking today, I'm I guess, uber motivated because I just came off of an exciting experience, which was, well, I've had several lately, but the one I wanted to point out right now is I just finished launching a brand new Elevate Ag, the Peer Innovation Network group. So Elevate Ag is the premier level peer group program of growers, and we'll be launching an agribusiness C-suite program soon. But for right now, it's growers all over the country. We have 11 states right now represented in the network. And we just launched a new individual peer group yesterday in Indianapolis. So if you're listening, special thanks out there to the Indiana Department of Agriculture, the Indiana Soybean Alliance, Indiana Corn Marketing Council, and also to CoBank, who were speakers and provided some great content for these growers to take in as they were also coming together to build their peer network. And it's a small group right now. We'll continue to expand that. They'll get the chance to meet with my other two peer networks in February and have some interactions both independently as their own sort of nucleus trusted peer group that also combines with the other peer group networks. We're going to actually be going to Fresno, California to see the San Joaquin Valley in February for this network. So I'm mentioning it to you because we talked about some of these fundamental shifts yesterday, and Monday was a 2-day launch. We had some speakers that really challenged us to think very globally and to think about the other industries that are not what we're growing. So in the room, we had beef producers and row crop farmers. Corn, soybeans, wheat were those particular producers, which is a common type of group that I would have, I suppose, coming from the Midwest. But we had some talks that spent a lot of time around the livestock sector and what's going on in China with the African swine issue that they're having that's causing them to eradicate a lot of hogs. And livestock producers think about these things, worry about these things perhaps. But the challenge is really that we all have to think of the global marketplace and how food and products and fiber that we grow or that our neighbors grow impact us, because the impact is enormous. And I think we get very siloed a lot of times in our own segment and only tend to say, well, the tariffs are bad. What's happening with my product? That's certainly a concern, but it's not a global holistic view, because those other segments are going to affect the need for your products, the market for those, the consumer across the world's desire for those, the changes they want to see in proteins are going to reflect what we have to change in grains. It's not like you don't know that, but I find that we're not doing a sound job for a lot of people of factoring that in our future decisions. And that includes my topic, how do we build that future generation? So it was really opening for us yesterday. And if you want that kind of elevated discussion that pushes you to think more broadly, then send me a message, get me on email, join the Farm Next group on Facebook and find me there and send a message. And talk to me about if you're the right, if Elevate Ag and this peer group member program and this curated content that we bring. So these aren't conferences. These are private meetings where we come together in small groups, have high-level discussions, and then the groups push each other to change where they want to change. If that sounds interesting to you, it's a fee-based program. It's an annual subscription. Send me a message and let's talk about it. We're definitely wanting to expand that, and I'm interested in hearing from you if that sounds like a good fit for you. Okay, so that is leading into today, which is episode 5. Topic today is number 3, and it is in those 6 fundamental shifts. So what do I want to start out, as I told you, with a rather colloquial story. So I call this shift the global marketplace and your role in it. Now, I am clearly not an economist. I am not a financial analyst, and there is plenty of resources out there with those kinds of folks to give you those facts. And we had a couple in the last 2 days. I tell stories about the things that I've seen and how they've impacted operations, and I'm effective at getting people talking where they need to talk to solve problems. So my story and my approach to the global marketplace is going to try to make this more realistic for you. Let me just start with a question. So I don't know how old you are, but a lot of folks like me may relate to this. So when you opened up your lunchbox back at school, did your mom pack you hummus and jicama sticks? Now, a lot of you don't know what jicama is. My husband certainly did not when I started buying those neat little white sticks that taste somewhat like a celery or like a white carrot, but they've got a different texture. Um, I'm a 1970s born Gen X kid, and honestly, the weirdest thing or the most unique thing that I ever had in my lunchbox, which was a Little House on the Prairie, was, a half-eaten sandwich that mom didn't catch over the weekend and it got left there. But hummus is something that kids today eat all the time in their lunch boxes. And they have those prepackaged things. They're easy. They've got some protein that, it's sort of a fashionable thing to eat. But I have to say, I think it's tasty. And a lot of kids like it too. You can buy this stuff readily at any grocery store, it seems like. But it's kind of seems different. How does that affect us? Well, I'm getting ready to tell you. So a friend of mine, farmer in Iowa, 2 years ago, he took a look at this, saw his grandkids eating this stuff he thought was kind of weird and mushy, but he started growing chickpeas. He researched this market. Chickpeas are also known as garbanzo beans, and they're the base ingredient in hummus. He researched this. He found a global producer that makes the spread. They sell it here. They sell it elsewhere. He's a dyed-in-the-wool corn and bean farmer, but he replaced a large chunk of his standard field corn production with chickpeas and has been continuing to do that. He has converted a dedicated space in the new grain facility that he was putting up anyway. And he was thinking, how am I going to finance this? Well, there was some contracting that got done and some relationships got built, and he had some dedicated space, and he was able to finish that grain facility project. And the chickpea buyer, they come directly to him to pick it up. He does not have to have segregated space in his trucks to haul it. So he started to pencil the profits of this and the convenience. There's a lot of inconvenience, of course, too, with the planting, the harvesting, the seed. The agronomics of that were different, but they weren't so different than beans, and he personally found. So he's never looked back as he's become really more innovative in building these different contractual relationships. Now, there's risks to that. Does that you don't know that market very well? Is that producer sound? Is that contract good? We're not going to be able to get into those today in a podcast, and I don't have the answers to those risks other than to say, like Pete, you've got to bring your own counsel to the discussion to cover yourself on those circumstances. But the opportunities to think about that food, he saw his grandkid eating this weird food, at least in his opinion, then realized how prevalent it was. His mom was in her 80s. She's like, oh, I like hummus. He's like, really? He took the mindset, and that's what I want to emphasize with the global marketplace thinking. Take the mindset of what are the trends and how can you be capitalizing on those, even if it's in a small portion of your business. You can't afford to flip everything over to a trendy thing right now. I understand that, but why not explore it? And why not look more broadly than your own personal preferences, personal habits, and what you've always done? And why? Well, we've created some tremendous competitors out there, haven't we? We did a lot in the 70s to help people in South America get better at production, and they're really good. The Eastern Europe, they have huge fields. They produce well. Our global competitors are intense. We know this, and crop production and protein production around the globe has just increased rapidly in decades. We know these competitive pressures put a lot of glut, I guess, that can create. They know that they can really make things difficult for us, and have. They're also not going away. One of the things that we discussed in the group with a speaker who is very strong in the global economic marketplace was that the mindset of you've got to stop just waiting for things to get better. You have to make choices, and some of those may mean proactive decisions to do things differently. And that's what the global market teaches you. So not only is it on the opportunity side, like Pete saw with the hummus, it's also on the threat side which is things you can't control, like the growth of the other producers worldwide that are strong competitors for us now. That's a threat. It's external. You don't get to change that. However, your business is dealing with that. And that's why the global marketplace is absolutely a fundamental shift for us in agriculture. Everything changes from now. So what do you do? Again, there's a lot of things to look at, but as the CEO of your operation, and your next CEO is probably going to have to take a pretty hard look at diversity in order to remain profitable. There are so many things out there, and a lot of them are risky, but are they not worth the time and research? And if you're an older CEO and you've got some younger individuals in the business, should there be a discussion around who's going to take the lead on researching new markets? And how are we going to do that? How would we switch up that crop or livestock mix year to year to turn a better profit? That is a challenge. That is not a suggestion that's an easy one, but it's a shift in the thought process. So I'm not recommending one product or another or one way to do it, and I'm not here to put the pencil to the paper for you. You've got great resources out there who can do it. What I do is I help people really take a chance to spend the time and explore the mindset shift that they have to do to shift their business to a different place, or to flip the thought process to say, for the next generation, we have to think differently, and what do we do? And that part, igniting that part, is where I spend my time with growers and agribusiness. And I do that, and I think that I've been able to help people with that, because it's an area where we traditionally have chosen to either avoid, or we just don't build the time in for it. But let's face it, innovative growers who will be here in 2050 know that there are certain alternative crops and products that we know appeal to the consumer's changing food preferences, and they may be a financial boon for your business. So what do I say here, I guess, is this trend to conclude this? Have a keen interest in what's happening internationally. Begin to be involved. You can, your state and national trade organizations are great at providing this access and this information. Get involved with them. Understand how to adapt to the trends. Take a look at the threats, and instead of just seeing them as a stagnant thing, recognize the threat, the seriousness of it, and what do you have to begin adjusting to live within that and to still thrive. Take advantage of things like leadership programs, international travel, serving as in state and national boards. They're all part of what's now your global role in the food system. So have you named that international ambassador for your farm yet? I don't know, but I'm encouraging you to break apart from the very small thinking of my product just goes to market and it's done. That's a tactic. That's a delivery. That's not how you run a sustainable global business for another generation. And that's what I want to encourage you to think about and think differently about today. So thanks for listening to that discussion of trend and fundamental shift. Number 3, the global marketplace and how it affects you. So lastly, today, I always like to lead you with a couple of ideas. Do not forget to join the Farm Next Facebook group. So you just get on to Facebook, search for Farm Next, and you'll find it. You can answer a few of those questions to join. There's nothing too invasive, but we're really encouraging people to join that are interested in interacting and learning. So we do have a couple of questions just about, what interests you? Why are you looking at this? What are your top concerns? You can answer those, or you don't have to. And then you'll be in. We'll get you in there, and that's where we're going to be continuing to take these conversations, posting a lot of information and free trainings. Currently, I do a live training and it's kind of a live show on Facebook on Thursdays. Once we get that Farm Next group to a critical mass, the live training is moving to the group. So right now it's on my homepage, but that's partly so I can let all of you know about it. Then it will be moving to the Farm Next group, and you'll want to be there to get those free trainings. We'll also be making our program offers and those things for digital and virtual training programs, and our live in-person sessions will be there as well. The offers for those will be there, I guess I should say. And that's probably where I'll leave you with. We're getting to the end of the year. As I record this, there's snow on the ground. And it's the time of year that if you're finally done with harvest, and for many parts of the country this year, that is an if still. But as you begin to move into that reflective period that's also very busy, but it's known as the holidays and year end, what's important to you next year? And if you are really ready, you and your operation family, a couple key employees, whoever's involved, really ready to take what you know you need to do on transitioning to the next generation. And I'm talking about the people side, because I'm not teaching things about how to set up an LLC or how to set up how to get those things. There's great resources out there, and they're not me. We're going to talk about how do the people operate within these systems? How do you train? How do you onboard? What are the new roles of the future? How do you get the conversation started and create the, transition things like the negotiations with landlords, like managing the books, who's taking over the marketing? If you're ready to make those changes, start implementing that in 2020, then you may want to come to the Farm Next course. So it's a 2-day class, but it's also going to be heavily workshop. We're going to have content for you, but we are going to ask you to work and talk and think and plan this out and figure out how it will work and discuss your ideas and get some feedback from others. We're even going to work through case studies where you are the consultant, and it's so much easier to solve someone else's problems than our own. So you'll get the chance to do that, but hopefully that busting that thought process open will help you get your problem solved in your own operation. That's going to be in early February. We're going to have some special kind of open cart is an industry term they use for signing up for that. But if you are ready to learn about it, send us a message now. We'll put you on that early email list because our early list will get some special prices. So that's it for today. And I look forward to seeing you over in the Farm Next group. Have a great day. And one last thing before you go for the day, I want to personally invite you to come on over to the Farm Next Facebook community. Why would you join this? Well, this is a community of those of us in agriculture who are interested in developing and coaching the next generation of leaders. It's where things like this podcast, the live show that I do every Thursday with the free training on a topic, get their house. It's where they live. It's where you can always grab the extra versions of those and where you can take advantage of the conversation and the community. We'll also be making you some really interesting offers in that group to take advantage of programs that may benefit you. And they will be exclusive right there in the group. So come on over, look for Farm Next on Facebook and ask to join. I'll see you there.